Now that we've finished the design process for our cubes and our dimensions, we're ready to use the schema generation wizard. And we'll find that wizard on the database menu. We start it by selecting Generate Relational Schema. So we'll walk through the wizard, and it will prompt us whether we want to create a new data source view, which is our only choice here because we have none already in the Solution Explorer view here. And we can decide on the data source view name and select a data source that we want to associate that data source view with. If we did not have a data source already, we could use the New button here to create one. Let's click Next. Then we can choose various options. For example, do we want to create primary keys on dimension tables? And that's usually a good idea. We have the option to create indexes, to enforce referential integrity, and also to preserve data on regeneration. So we can come back to this design process and add more attributes using this top-down approach, and we may have already added data to our dimension tables, and so this is just an opportunity to make sure that we protect that data. Or we can have the process eliminate that data, and then we'd have the opportunity to reload the tables later. Then for our timetable, we can decide when we want to populate them. Do we always want to populate them, not populate them, or populate only if empty? So let's click Next. And now we have naming conventions. So if we have multiple words that are detected by the use of capital letters in the names of our tables, do we want to use an underscore? We also have the option to use a space or no separator. Then for primary key column prefix, we would just type in the prefix that we wanted to use. PK is the default. FK is the default for foreign keys. Then the remaining naming conventions I'll have to do with suffixes. If we selected the option to store our attribute names in a separate column from our key column, we would be able to use a specific suffix to identify that column in our dimension table. The remaining suffix naming conventions deal with parent-child hierarchies, and these are all part of an advanced design that we'll learn about in a separate course. Let's continue with the wizard using Next. And here we just see a summary, so then we can click Finish. And here we can see the progress marked for us with a validation process that started, the creation of a data source view, SQL statements get created to build out our database objects. Everything gets executed and complete successfully. So now we can see in our Dimension Designer, we can see the table structure that supports these attributes. And we have a DSV file for the data source view added to our project, and we can double click this and see that we have various tables referenced here. But not all tables have the correct relationships to one another. We'll learn more about working with this data source view later in this module.